Good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Jared Silverman. Let's go ahead and get it. We're tracking the tropics still on what is still AL 93. Nothing more, nothing less. And there you see, they're sitting there at 40%. So we got the 7 a.m. update from the NHC. They didn't really change their tune, and it really looks like this is going to cling very closely to the coastline, so it might not have the time and the real estate that it needs to really strengthen up into anything right now. So then there becomes a question mark on the development. It looks like this is going to be much more of a rainmaker than it is a wind maker. Winds, we're talking 20, maybe 30 knots, nothing more, nothing less. But early this Wednesday morning, we're looking at satellite radar, and we see already we've got a couple of tropical bands there kind of spreading out, widening out, losing their punch a little bit. Nothing that looks too severe, but definitely putting down some brief heavy downpours. One right over there getting very close to the Louisiana coastline, but mainly missing our viewing area off to the south. You could see a couple of those convective flare-ups out there, and of course that's well ahead of the circulation. The circulation is still back in the northeastern corner of the Gulf, but it doesn't really look like that much. Doesn't look like much on satellite. Now here's what we're talking about. This is per the WPC for rainfall. It says over the next 7 days, but more to the point, this is going to be the storm totals that we see going into later today, plus Thursday, Friday, mainly ending through Saturday. And the name of the game, so don't get too hung up on the individual numbers, but the trend here is definitely very clear. The farther north you go, barely any influence from this system whatsoever, but as you go to the coastline, WPC's got a couple of 5 to 7 inch bullseyes as you go a little bit farther down to the south. I would say in the Baton Rouge area right now, 2 to 5 inches looks like it's going to be a possibility with localized heavier amounts. That'll be a possibility as well. So what we see that's different today versus what we had yesterday are as the computer models are really clinging to the coastline. You'll remember yesterday, a lot of those models were taking a dip down to the south, and even if you look this Wednesday morning, there are a couple of members that still want to take that southerly dip. If it did that, and I'm not saying that it would, but if it did that, it would have a little bit more time to work with, and it could intensify a little bit, but a lot of the models have this clinging to the coastline, and for that purpose, it's probably not going to be able to really gather and intensify. Could be dealing with a tropical depression, maybe nothing more, nothing less, but all the models do still have it driving right through our wheelhouse here in the Baton Rouge, Lafayette, back to New Orleans area. So high pressure is going to be bumped off by this tropical low, and that's going to dredge up all that tropical Gulf moisture as it centers basically right on top of us. We're talking about the Thursday into Friday time frame, and then hopefully everything kind of wraps up as we get into Saturday into the weekend. So let's also talk about the possibility of flooding, aka excessive rainfall. For today, we're level 1 marginal, not a big deal. For tomorrow, we'll ramp up to a level 2, slight, a little bit more of a deal. And then as we go into Friday, we'll ramp up even more and we'll go with a level 3 moderate risk, where Baton Rouge is kind of on the outer cusp. And interestingly, you don't see New Orleans here. And it looks like the models are suggesting that the heaviest bands of rain are going to be to the south and to the west of the main area of circulation. So it makes sense actually now that the WPC feels that the heaviest rain is actually not going to be in the eastern part of Louisiana, but rather to the west and southwest between Lafayette and Lake Charles. And again, we're going to keep a very watchful eye on that. Going forward, here's what we see from the WPC, and again from our computer, it's that general bullseye down there off to the south, and that's where we probably will see the heavier bands of rain. So will this get the letter D? Will it get Dexter? Probably not, but there is still that chance. And I've seen the NHC. We already saw it this year. We've seen the Hurricane Center. I think there was that first storm, that A storm in the middle of the Atlantic. I couldn't even see that thing on satellite, and they gave that a name. So I can try to predict the models, but I can't really predict what the NHC is going to do. So I'm not going to guarantee you that it's not going to get a letter, it's not going to get a name. But right now the models are hinting more of a depression than anything else. So I was showing this yesterday, and I really hope that I didn't scare too many people out there with the Futurecast graph. I really wanted to draw your attention to it, and today it's starting to back off a little bit. It's not showing quite the intensity that it was showing yesterday, so this makes a little bit more sense, and you see that center circulation start to go up right at the south central part of Louisiana as we get into Friday. Now, we want to know where that center circulation is, not so much because this is a wind maker, as I said, 20, 30 miles per hour, really nothing more, nothing less, but that circulation is going to tell us where the heavier bands of rain are more likely to set up. So let's knock it down to a couple of bullet points for you, as we've got first alerts for Thursday and Friday, and of course we're going to keep our eyes glued to the Gulf. Flood watch is going to start later today for the Baton Rouge area, for Louisiana, Wednesday afternoon. all Thursday, all Friday, then ending Friday night into Saturday morning. We're expecting a general 2 to 5 inches. I would say that could be common ground. The farther south you go, the heftier the amounts get, and localized heavier amounts will be possible. But right now, we're not so much looking at river flooding. So when we talk about flooding, what exactly are we talking about here? Because we've got this flood watch that's across much of the area. I would say a lot of what you see here in green is really more for localized street flooding and then maybe a little bit of immediate coastline flooding. But the other kind of flooding that people worry about, of course, is river flooding. We know what happened in central Texas. We know what happened here back in 2016. But the good news is we're keeping a watchful eye on river levels, on gauges, and we don't really expect a big threat as far as river flooding is concerned. That's a very low, limited risk. And by the way, yes, for today, we've got another heat advisory. The flood watch goes in effect, and that's going to be in effect right on through Friday night going into Saturday morning. Once again, I'm meteorologist Jared Silverman. Stay tuned. We're going to have more updates for you throughout the day.